We are live. It's the Revved Up 906 podcast, a Detroit Pistons podcast, to be exact. Hudson.
And I'm Ryan.
And before we get into episode number 17 of season 2, I want to talk to you, the people, about a few quick things. First off, Grind Clothing Co. is our official merch sponsor. So you can click the link in our YouTube bio or in the description below, and you can find merch like the polo I am wearing in today's episode and a sweatshirt, much like the one Ryan is wearing. And then we also have a plethora of different hats, beanies, quarter zips, sweatshirts, all kinds of different things. So make sure to go check out grindclothingco.com. Then also, if you have a second, go take a look at their other designs that they have to offer. They have all kinds of different things for everybody's different styles. So make sure to go check out grindclothingco.com. We appreciate our sponsorship with them very greatly. Also, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And if you like today's video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. And if you aren't so much into long form content, like our 30 to 25-minute videos, make sure to still subscribe and follow us on Instagram, because we post clips almost each and every day that are around 25 to 30 seconds long that are perfect for you that don't like long form content. So make sure to still subscribe and follow. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode number 17 of season 2. This week, we are going to be predicting our predictions for the rest of the season and what we kind of see the Pistons ending the season and where they're going to be at the end of this 82 game schedule. And Ryan, to start off this conversation, what do you kind of see the rotation looking like? Because Simone Fontecchio is playing very well. Quentin Grimes is kind of finding his way within the Pistons. And there's a couple of these new additions that are kind of making themselves known within this organization. And then we have young Marcus Sasser starting to play very well midway through his rookie year. Ryan, where do you see the minutes going when this season ends and when the Pistons are hopefully in this prime form to head into the offseason?
It honestly may be a bold take. I don't think it is, just given the fact of, okay, Simone Fontecchio has been an absolute stud for us.
Right.
Before he was even a Piston, I'm sitting there going like, man, I wish he was in Detroit. I wish we had him. And then all of a sudden we have him, just like a snap of the finger. All we gave up was Kevin Knox and a second round pick, and we picked him up easily out of that deal. I love Kevin Knox. He brought us a lot of energy at times where we needed it the most. There were moments where he was just a walking bucket off the bench for us in any given game. But then he was also cold at times. And Simone, getting him in the deal, in Utah, they called him the mini Bojan Bogdanovic. That's what they called him. And he is the mini Bojan. So if you look back at what he's done for us the last couple games to start off his early career with the Pistons, there's no complaints. He can do a lot more than just shoot. And honestly, he's a lot more freak of an athlete than Bojan is in a landslide, honestly. But I'm not saying Simone is like Jaden Ivey. But what I've seen out of him, I can see him playing 3 and 4. And maybe if you want to go with a small ball lineup, 5, but that's pushing it. I really think he can be a stretch 4, or he can be on the wing for you. So with that minutes wise, you look at who's out there. You have Asar Thompson, who plays the 3, who just drafted, and then you have nobody else really filling that role because Bojan's out, and we never really had a wing established outside of Bojan. So in my opinion, you go with Cade at the 1, Ivy at the 2, Asar at the 3, Simone at the 4, and then Dern at the 5. But keep in mind, this is amidst the Isaiah Stewart drama. If you have Isaiah Stewart available, obviously you would go Stu and Dern at the 4 and 5, and then maybe Simone at the 3. But I feel like Simone needs to start for this team going forward, and it needs to be the long haul because we got him at 28 years old. He's young still. I mean, yeah, and you compare him to a lot of the players in the league, he's old. But this is his first year in the league, and he's playing out of this world, and I see him being a staple piece for years to come. And then Quentin Grimes, he doesn't have to be like a guy that is gonna go out there and give you a 20-point game every single night. He's a 3 and D type player. And the way I see it with him minutes wise, I see him being a quality role player off the bench, kind of like a Lindsey Hunter did for us back in the day.
Right.
Just one of those guys who can instantly come in, give you a bucket, defend on the other end. And it's just the whole dynamic. Because I think Sasser beats him out for the job coming off the bench as the main guard. I think Sasser beats just about anybody coming off the bench. Because Sasser, it would be my number one coming off the bench in any given minute, just depending on what you're looking for in the rotation between a big or a guard. But that's what I see out of the Quentin Grimes and somebody from Tecchio.
So for me, somebody that I think is going to shake up this roster for the Pistons is Shake Milton, because we saw him play 38 games with the Minnesota Timberwolves earlier this season, and he was kind of having a dip year. And I think that's really why the Timberwolves traded him. He was averaging around 13 minutes, getting 4 points and not really doing a whole lot with those minutes. Where now he comes to Detroit and he's averaging 17 minutes in 3 games, 8 points. I think the Pistons are going to give him a flexibility offensively where he's going to be able to average double-digit points. Because for me, somebody needs to make up for the points that we lost with Alec Burks. Because like you said, Fontecchio is going to hopefully make up for what we lost in Bojan. And then, but who's going to come off the bench and kind of make that work for the Pistons? Is it going to be Marcus Sasser? I think there's a possibility of that, but Shake Milton, I think, is going to be a crucial point for this second unit for the Detroit Pistons, because I like the way how dynamic he is, because he's a solid scorer. He's a 3-level scorer, but then he's also a good rebounder. And so that's going to lead to great outlet passes for the Pistons and just a little bit better quality of basketball, because in 17 minutes, he's averaging 6 rebounds, which that really impresses me. So it's the little things with a guy like Shake Milton. And I think he's going to be a guy that is going to be a Piston for years to come, because we kind of saw him, have a great long stint of 5 years with the Philadelphia 76ers. And then he went to Minnesota, and it was kind of a mistake for him. And I think he's kind of looking for a home. He's the kind of guy that he's proven earlier in his career that he likes to stay around places for a while. He doesn't want to be a journeyman. And I think Detroit's going to be the home he's looking for, as long as he stays healthy and just kind of finds that consistency on the second unit. He's got the guys to set him up. He's got Troy Brown Jr., who's a great guy to play alongside people. He's got Marcus Sasser. He's got a lot of guys that he can work with on the second unit, Isaiah Stewart, so on and so forth. So he's really set up to succeed. And I think he's going to be a guy that really shakes up this rotation for the Pistons and gives the second unit very quality minutes by the end of this season.
Yeah, I completely agree. Shake Milton, if you look back at the 76ers, which is most notably anybody would know him from. His time there, he was a great quality role player off the bench for them. No matter what time of the season it was, early season, mid-season, postseason, he was just one of those great quality role players that you want on any given night. He'd give you 20 if you wanted. He'd give you 10 points. He would do everything he could.
Right.
His frame, for what it's worth, he is a very long guard. There's not a lot of guards in the league that are as long as he is. And that allows him to get steals, get blocks, defend, and just be an absolute juggernaut for any given team in the role he plays, obviously, like coming off the bench. And then I think another guy, as you mentioned earlier, Troy Brown Jr., I think he has a role with this team. Now, a lot of people are like, well, we got a bunch of guys that probably aren't ever going to play for us in this trade for Bojan and Alec Burks. But and then even Monte Morris and Kevin Knox and whatnot. But Troy Brown Jr., what he can bring to us, there were flashes this past season earlier on in Minnesota where you're going like, whoa, okay, Troy Brown, I see you. You can hit that shot. You can defend. You look at last year with his little stint with the Lakers. He was great at times. So the point is all the potential, everything is right there, bubbling inside of him right now, just waiting to come out. And it's just, he's so close on unlocking that. And with the couple minutes we've seen him play for us and then the last 5 games, I've seen him go hit good quality shots, get open
Yeah.
looks. He can defend. He can do all the little things that the Pistons actually need out of anybody right now. And he's still relatively young, 24 years old. So when you combine how young he is
Yep.
with the overall talent defensively and offensively, I really think he has a place here. And I know and I understand he's a little bit more on the project side than what we would want.
Mhm.
But like, keep in mind, we have Simone, we have Asar Thompson on the wing already, who can give you a good solid night now, especially Asar. But I think Troy Brown Jr. can be a key going forward. Not saying he's going to be like, oh, for sure starter, or maybe he's a sixth man. No, he's going to have a good share of quality minutes. He's going to be one of those quality guys coming off the bench if we go down the road and keep him that long. But Shake Milton, Simone Fontecchio, Quentin Grimes, and Troy Brown Jr., I think all have a role within this team.
Well, one thing that I liked about Troy Brown Jr. is I was kind of worried about his 3-point shooting ability, because that's something the Pistons have struggled in years prior. And that's what Alec Burks and Bojan gave us. But then in his first outing, he made 3 threes, and he really took advantage of those open opportunities. So I think Troy Brown Jr. is a little bit more well-rounded than what I would have suspected, unless that was just a fluke. I'm not sure. But I just really like the way he played, and I think Troy Brown Jr. is going to have a bright future with the Pistons. Hopefully, if they keep him around for a couple of years. We talked about like what players are going to kind of fulfill the scoring what Bojan and Alec Burks offered. So that kind of brings up the point. Do you think Fontecchio and Quentin Grimes are going to add up to the offense that Bojan and Alex Burks offered? Because we know that those two vets were just absolute juggernauts on the offensive end. And I kind of worry if Fontecchio and Alec Burks are going to be able to, Fontecchio and Quentin Grimes are going to be able to kind of match that. What are some of your thoughts?
Well, if you go back to like the last couple first games here, Fontecchio in his first game with the Pistons in 32 minutes gave us 20 points, 9 rebounds, and an assist. Like, as a debut game for your new team, coming off
Yeah,
the trade deadline, not even practicing with the team yet, only watching film to really understand what the team is all about. That is an amazing first impression right there
yep,
out of him alone. And then even the games after following that, it wasn't like, whoa, compared to the first game there. But like, you can see, like I said earlier, he can play the 3 and the 4. We saw him most notably against the Lakers get the start at the 4, actually.
right.
But like, what he was able to do in a first impression game
Mhm.
to where he has the last couple outings, I think he can do what Bojan was doing for us. Keep in mind, though, when Bojan was going off, giving us 30 points, 36, the one high for the season for him, it was a one-man show. It was really just him out there. Because those were instances where Jaden Ivey was dealing with foul issues. Jalen Dern was either out or dealing with foul issues. Same with Stu and the whole gang. Like, it's been injuries and fouling troubles that have plagued the Pistons in those situations where Bojan goes off. So it really, if you bring everybody back together, all these guys, Bojan always slipped to the bottom of the totem pole. He always slipped to the bottom in terms of scoring load, because obviously Cade's going to want the ball. He is the guy for the team. Ivy's been an absolute freak the last couple of games or so, giving us consistently 20 points on any given night. Don't forget JD with a 2020 game recently. Like, Bojan was slowly falling down the totem pole in the pecking order in terms of scoring the ball. And that was most notably like noticed for me with the game and the play out of Jaden Ivey most recently. So you add Simone into the mix, who is a guy that in Utah earlier on this season, there were nights where he was giving you 20, and there were nights where he was giving you 10. Nights he was giving you 10 was when Jordan Clarkson was going off, when Lowry Markkinen was going off, etc. He wasn't at the top of the pecking order, but he was still effective. And I think Simone with this team can be more effective than with Bojan in this team, just given the fact that he is younger and he has more of a defensive presence than what Bojan had. Simone can fill the lanes, clog them. He's actually a great shot blocker too. So I think Simone can do and replicate what Bojan did for us in his career with us. But then I also think Quentin Grimes could do just about the same as Alec Burks, if given the opportunity. Obviously, Alec Burks he's an automatic bucket, right? But Quentin Grimes, we need to see that still. I think Quentin Grimes, in terms of those two guys compared to those two guys, Quentin Grimes is like the low end of the stick. And then if you go Bojan to Simone, Simone's ahead of Bojan, in my opinion. So it's a 50-50 on if it actually pans out, but I think I have more hope in it this time around than what it had been.
Well, and here's the thing about Fontecchio as far as compared to Bojan. Fontecchio shoots 45% from the field. So he's more efficient. He's not going to demand the ball a lot. Bojan Bogdanovic averages around 1 assist, I think. Fontecchio gets around 3 a game. And then also for rebounds, Fontecchio is a lot better. He averages 5 rebounds to Bojan's like 2 or 3. So the thing about Fontecchio is, yes, is he going to be as much of a scorcher on the offensive end as Bojan? No, but he's going to be able to offer more of what the Pistons need. We know that Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren at times, Marcus Sasser off the bench, Quentin Grimes, these guys can lead the offense. They didn't need Bojan to lead the offense. Now they need Fontecchio to be able to do what's right to win games, and that's tough nose defense, making the right pass, getting the right rebound, and making the shots when the defense gives it to you. And that's what Fontecchio does, man. He's a beast. And Bojan, we saw him force his own shots a lot of the time. I'm trying to find how many shots per game Fontecchio takes. I'm not really seeing it. But Bojan shoots around 24 shots a game. Fontecchio does not need that many shots up to get to 15 points, which is his average, and shoot 45% from the field. So that's a huge point in itself, is that when you have a player taking less shots, that means you can spread the ball out more. And I think that's a big reason why Jaden Ivey is having so much success as of late. And I think that's why Jalen Duren is getting more thicker points, double doubles, because Bojan Bogdanovic isn't there to bog down the offense. So I think Fontecchio adds a great dynamic to this Detroit Pistons team that Bojan Bogdanovic didn't offer. And that's just being a well-rounded, just winning style basketball. You know, Bojan played on that Utah Jazz playoff team, but who led that team? Donovan Mitchell. It wasn't Bojan Bogdanovic. Was he a part of it? Of course. But they ended up going out early, in the Eastern Conference, they didn't Western Conference championships, I believe. So it's not like this team was this dynasty. It was this team that really had to work hard during the bubble to make it deep in the playoffs. So Bojan isn't necessarily like a winning style player because he's not the highest quality of player. So I like the dynamic that Quentin Grimes and Fontecchio add to this team, just because I just think they're a little bit more quality of players. They're going to be willing to work within an offense and not have this ego of a vet that I think Bojan had at times. I think when you add a vet like Bojan to the Detroit Pistons, it's kind of hard for him to not take the shots, because he's like, well, I'm 34 years old. These guys are all 20 years old. Like, what are they going to do that I can't do? I can still do this. I can still put up 20 and get up 24 shots. I feel like Bojan felt like that at times. At least it looked like that on the court. So I just kind of like the dynamic those two guys add. As far as Quentin Grimes, I mean, right now we know that Fontecchio is averaging 15 points. When the Pistons are at their best, and let's say Quentin Grimes is on this team, where do you kind of want him to average when he's coming off the bench? Because, you could argue 15, 13, 12. Where's your head at as far as Quentin Grimes coming off the bench?
Well, if you look back at this season, what has he done with the Knicks? 7 points, 2 rebounds, and assists, barely turns the ball over, barely fouls, shoots 40% from the field, 36 from 3, and then 78% at the line. He's a good shooter. He when at times he doesn't force his shot. He looks for others before doing so. And I think it's always nice to have a very unselfish player within the team. That's what Killian Hayes was for us. He was very unselfish, really didn't look for his shot. Granted, a lot of you would agree that there's a reason why he wasn't looking for his shot, is because he can't shoot, which, I mean, you're not wrong. But but no, Quentin Grimes, he's a 3-and-D player. You go back to Houston with Sasser. He was one of those key guys outside of Sasser alone, but one of the key guys that led Houston on that big run that they had in the tournament that year. And you look at what he did, he didn't just bring you defense, he brought you offense, he brought you scoring. He was one of the better scoring players in the country at that time. And I think he can continue that. He just hasn't been really given the opportunity yet to do so. And with this young Pistons team, we do have times where we are dealing with a lot of foul troubles. Jaden Ivey struggles. Asar Thompson struggles. Even Cade at times does struggle. And Sasser, absolutely love Sasser. The difference between Grimes and Sasser, though, is height. There's a height advantage. There's a length advantage. And if you're going to have a matchup where you're going to need Quentin Grimes out there, it's against a taller guard. And because Sasser, no offense to no offense to him at all, but he's not going to match up against LaMelo Ball. I'm sorry. It's just the height difference there. And then like LaMelo beats him off the dribble, goes to the rim. There's no shot contest. You'd have to have Duran come over, help side defense, or even anybody else help side defense to contest a shot like that. But Sasser is a great defender too. Not saying he isn't, but Quentin Grimes, what I kind of want to see out of him is maybe hovering around 10 points, hovering around 4 rebounds, 3 assists. He doesn't have to be like an all-star for us, but a good quality player to look for coming off the bench and give us energy at times. My focus on him, though, is defense. If you can bring us defense whenever we need it the most, I'm happy there.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing with Grimes that I'm worried about is sometimes he can kind of fall away from activity. And the best way to kind of describe that is what we saw with Killian at times. I really like Killian overall, his play style, but there would be like 5 games in a row where you just be like, where are you at, Killian? Where you know, like, why aren't you making an impression on this game? And then he'd come out and have a great 5 games. I think that's kind of the pattern. Hopefully Quentin Grimes can kind of break. I know that's kind of something that he struggled with in New York, even with Brunson and Julius Randle, and at the time, RJ Barrett. So I think that's something that I kind of want to see from Quentin Grimes, that I want him to prove to me, is that he is going to be able to have some consistency, because that's the biggest thing for second unit players is, are you going to be able to give us consistent offensive scoring in order for the Detroit Pistons to win? Because we know that Jaden Ivey also struggles with consistency. So what the second unit needs is guys that are going to be able to come out each and every night, give us 12, give us 13, give us 14 points, hit that mark, because that's what the Pistons second unit is going to have, especially if we're going to have Isaiah Stewart starting, who we know isn't a honed in offensive player, or Jalen Duren that we know isn't going to give us 25, 30 a night at the center position. We need guys on the bench like Quentin Grimes, like Marcus Sasser, like Troy Brown Jr., like Shake Milton, all these guys to just give us consistency offensively. We're not asking them to be world beaters, but we need something out of them. Ryan, right now, the Detroit Pistons are sitting in the Central Division in the Eastern Conference at 8-46, 5th in the division, behind the Chicago Bulls by 14 games, I believe. I'm not great at math. As far as predictions, we're on our 3rd prediction. What's your final record prediction? Because this is something that's kind of a hot topic. I remember right around this time, around All-Star break, we were talking predictions for the final record, and I was like, oh, the Pistons are going to go on a 15-game winning streak. They're going to end with 30 wins, blah, 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 blah. They ended up finishing with 17. Not a great prediction on my part. But a year ago today, we were kind of hoping for a nice big winning streak. Ryan, what are some of your predictions? Because I know that we have teams like the Boston Celtics and some other star-studded teams, and the Indiana Pacers. I'm looking forward to the Jaden Ivey, Benedict Mathurin matchup. What are some of your final record prediction?
Well, I mean, we're sitting at 8-46. Not great. I'm scared to say that we won't win we've won now. But part of me is thinking that this team will come together. There will be some matchups that we can win on. If you look at back at the last 5 games, we've beaten some tough teams. We beat the Sacramento Kings, and that game was huge for us. And then we followed that up by going to overtime and beating the Portland Trailblazers. And the Trailblazers, I mean, granted, they're not the cream of the crop in the NBA or the West in general, but that was a tough night in which we had some guys not healthy that just got moved, and we were depleted, and we took them to overtime, won the game, close, but we won. So we won a back to back for the first time since the start of the season. But then even the game against the Clippers, we were in it the entire stretch of the way. We lose at the end. The Lakers, we weren't really in it, but we fought back. So with that being said, there are a couple teams that I think are beatable, like the Chicago Bulls, the Charlotte Hornets, and there's a couple others off of that too. So with that being said, I predict us to get at least 10 wins, 10 wins to end the season, finishing with a record of 18-64. That is terrible, but I mean, I'd rather have 10 more wins than 2 more. So I am predicting us to be 18-64.
Yeah, I'm in the same realm as you. I think it'd be nice to beat 17 that we had last season. It's gonna be tough, hard-nosed wins for the Pistons, but I think it's doable with this new, renewed, and re-energized offense. But right off the bat, we have the Indiana Pacers, Orlando Magic, New York Knicks, and the Chicago Bulls. I think we're going to win 3 out of those 4 games. I think we're going to throw a flop up against the Knicks. I think they're a tough team that's led by Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, and crew. I think they're a great team. So I think we're going to beat the Pacers because of all the clips that went viral. We got a bit of chip on our shoulder. We're going to go at Benedict Mathurin, Tyrese Halliburton. Tyrese is going to be tired after a long all-star break. We're going to get him while he's down. And I think the Orlando Magic, Paulo Banchero is going to be tired after his all-star game and all-star weekend. Let's hit him while he's down, throw up a flop against the Knicks, and then beat the Bulls because I think the Bulls are very beatable. And then I agree. The Pistons play the Charlotte Hornets on March 11th. I think they're going to win that game. I think I'm going to go the same just to have a different answer. I think the Pistons are going to end with 20 wins. Let's win 12 games out of these last 28. 12 games. That's not even 50%. Not even 50%. So let's get it. Actually, it's just under 50%. So let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get to 21. I'd love it. And in that ballpark, or 20, let's do it. I would love to see the Detroit Pistons end on a high note. We play the San Antonio Spurs for the last game of the season. Let's end out on a win. Let's end out on a winning streak. We have a bunch of tough games in the month of April. Month of April is going to be brutal, but we're going to end on a win against the Spurs. I'm just calling it. I might as well place the bet in on DraftKings right now. DraftKings sponsor us. Let's do it. But here's the thing. I mean, when you look up and down these rosters and you look at the schedule, I always think the Pistons can compete. I'm probably biased. I know what the listeners are thinking. Hudson, you're biased. You're a diehard Pistons fan. Of course you're going to say that. But when you look up and down our roster and you compare and contrast to other NBA rosters, it's like, what's not clicking? And on any given night, I think the Detroit Pistons can have an upset and a win. And overall, I think that's the biggest thing. Ryan, any last thoughts before we wrap up episode number 17? Any other predictions by the end of the season? Do you think Cade has a big finish? Jaden Ivey wins most improved player of the year? Or, what are some of your predictions?
I think the team finally comes together towards the end of the season. We go on a run to end it, and there's going to be a lot of talk going into next season on what this team could be in the future. That's going to be, it's kind of bold to say that, but I'm just going to lay it out there right now. We're going to go on a run. We're going to start establishing ourselves as a young team, looking up and not looking down. And the draft is going to be a doozy. We're going to make a big splash. And yeah, I think we're going to finish out the season on a good run.
Well, it's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to these last 28 games of the Detroit Pistons season. It's been a wild ride. These last 3 years, man, and the Detroit Pistons organization has been crazy. I mean, I wish I could know the total amount of trades that have happened over the last 3 to 4 years. It would be absolutely incredible to know that. But make sure if you're a Detroit Pistons fan, stay on the ride, stay on the roller coaster, because one day we're going to be the best darn roller coaster in the league. So just stay on the ride. Don't throw up. Don't drop your phone. Don't lose your hat. Stay on the ride, and it'll be a great final destination. We will see you guys in the next episode, episode number 18. Peace.